You are watching Pushing the Limits. Thank you so much for joining us. Of course, watching on all platforms, right? YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, you name it, on the FMAM dial here in Vegas. And, of course, the Occupy Democrats Network. We appreciate all of you. Do us a favor. Support our show. If you are watching on the Occupy Democrats Network, or even if you're not, go on the Occupy Democrats Facebook page, click on that subscribe button. It's only $5 a month. You're supporting this show, and you're going to get extra content from yours truly. Please do that. We have a big show lined up for you today. As I mentioned, it is New Hampshire primary day, and we have some audio to play for you from New Hampshire. We have a lot to get to, and even though it is Tuesday, our residential liberal has decided to grace us with his presence. I know he's going to have a lot to talk about when it comes to MAGA supporters, when it comes to Trump Nation, when it comes to Joe Biden, and when it comes, of course, to right-wing misinformation. Of course, I'm talking about residential liberal, the official liberal of Pushing the Limits, Chris Wynn, joining us in studio. Chris, what's going on?
That's an interesting title there. Official liberal of your radio show. I mean, I guess, okay. Yeah, definitely a Democrat, definitely a progressive, no question about it, definitely on the left, and definitely going to come strong, right? We got a ton to talk about, Brian, because as you pointed out on this show many times, and as I pointed out when I've hosted the show and I've been a guest host on this show with you, it is going to be a extraordinary and intriguing next handful of months, without question, because about what is about to transpire leading up into November. And the vote 2024, it's going to be wild. And there are a lot of things to explore. And
it definitely is, yeah.
There's no
doubt question.
That, the opinions will be flying, let's put it that way.
Sure. Quick programming note for all of you watching. Anthony Scaramucci, also known as The Mooch, will be joining us on the show Thursday, so certainly looking forward to that. All right, I have some Orange Turd audio to play for you. Would you like to hear it, Chris? Some Cheeto Jesus audio out of New Hampshire. It's funny because some of these right-wing idiots that are posting stuff on X, they're showing like 100 people waiting in the freezing cold, waiting for Trump to show up at a polling station, not a polling station, in a voting precinct in New Hampshire. And they're saying, we've never seen anything like this before. Look at all these MAGA supporters waiting in the cold. And I characterize it as you have 100 idiots with nothing better to do with their lives. And if you don't think this has ever happened before, please Google somebody named Barack Obama who had a ton of more people waiting in the cold than a Donald Trump. But anyway, this is Donald Trump, the Orange Turd. Chris, I know you're a big fan. This is Donald Trump speaking to the media at one of these New Hampshire voting sites. Have a listen to this.
I'm going to watch you decimate me on television.
Okay.
To say the crowd wasn't here. Can you imagine? I actually had one reporter. Were you at the ice hockey arena the other night? It set a record. And I had a report said, the crowd was okay. It was okay. No, we've had, I think, more enthusiasm than even the other two races.
President,
we did very well.
What's the biggest threat to America? Is it the leftist communists? Is it the rhino Republicans that stab you in the back? Or is it the mainstream media?
Very fair question. I actually think the radical left is a tremendous threat to our country. And I think the rhino Republicans are just stupid people. But the radical left is a major threat.
Yeah, great question by that member of the media. What do you think is the biggest threat to this country? Is it the leftist communists or is it the mainstream media? What a dumbass. Probably some idiot from Newsmax asking that stupid question. Hey, you know what I would ask? Hey, Mr. President, why did your wife not want you in the same limo when you went to her mother's funeral the other day? What happened there, Mr. President? That's the question that I would have asked him. Hey, Mr. President, do you really want to rip up parts of the Constitution? Hey, excuse me, Mr. Orange Turd. Do you still lie and say you won the 2020 election, Mr. President? Mr. President, I thought you said you were going to build a wall and Mexico was going to pay for it. You keep saying how great you were at the border. What happened there, Mr. President? Mr. President, where are you going? Mr. President. Anyway, I don't know.
What's interesting, too, right, is about when he describes his crowd sizes, right, or people that show up at these events or whatever goes on, and his MAGA supporters, they're always trying to tout, oh, yeah, look at all these people showing up to see Donnie T, right? And look at nobody showed up to see Joe Biden, and they always bring up 2020, right? In the middle of a pandemic, they always try to bring up, what went on as far as Joe Biden and the campaign's approach. It's like, come on, we understand. We know, yes, Donald Trump has his fans. That's why we've been calling it a cult for a long time, and there's a reason why we call it a cult. Is because you people show up, you're very entertained by him.
It is a cult.
We get that.
It is a
we
cult.
get that, okay? But come on, man. You know, and And he's just weird. I mean, Donald Trump's just weird, isn't he, Brian? I mean, he's talking about, arena, showing up at the hockey arena. Okay, first of all,
he talking
they don't just
about?
play hockey. Okay, there, I'm sure. Okay, it's probably an arena. Okay, you don't have to call it a hockey arena. He's just weird. I don't know.
Well, he's a scumbag. Anyway, I want to be positive today, but I will say this.
Wait, time out.
Donald Trump's, hold on. Donald Trump's size at some of these events.
Yes.
I would compare that to Stormy Daniels describing Donald Trump's size, if you know what I'm saying. I'll leave it at that. But anyway, let's hear from a smart New Hampshire voter, a Republican, which is okay. But here is a decent Republican, a smart lady, a 77-year-old lady that is being interviewed live on CNN who is caucusing in New Hampshire. Here is somebody that sounds like a reasonable Republican. I don't know how many of them there are left. But I want you to listen to this lady doing a live interview on CNN describing why she's not caucusing for Donald Trump.
Well, I voted for Nikki Haley because I was voting against Donald Trump.
And what propelled you to get to this point?
I'm 74 years old. I've lived in a constitutional democracy all my life. I want to remain that way, and I want my grandchildren to grow up in one, not a dictatorship.
And I'm curious, over the last two elections, have you voted Trump in the past? Was it something where you voted for him, you trusted him, and you were disappointed?
Yes, I voted for him in 2016. I am a registered Republican, and I regretted that vote almost immediately, especially on his trip to Europe where he insulted our allies and praised Putin.
And then in 2020, was that enough for you to change your vote to Joe Biden?
Yes, absolutely.
Why did you feel the need to cross party lines?
Because I want the world to be a safe place. I believe in a strong NATO. My father fought in World War II to defeat fascism, and I wanted to remain defeated.
Well, there is a woman with a moral compass, a Republican who has a sense of dignity and intelligence, and she's not a cultist. And I appreciate that very, very, very much. And I believe in November, there's going to be too many of those types of people out there that will allow Donald Trump to win. Now, I'm still a little worried, but with that being said, I'm still confident that if it's Joe Biden or if it's somebody else, that there's going to be too many people out there in the middle. There's going to be too many people out there like me that are going to be voting as an anti-Donald Trump vote, which is, by the way, what I did in 2020. And there's going to be some Republicans out there that are tired of Donald Trump. You heard what she just said. She's not a cultist. She talked about, things he said, pro-positive Vladimir Putin stuff, insulting our allies, basically insulting everybody that disagrees with him. I believe you are not. If you're a MAGA supporter, you are not the silent majority. You are the loud minority. How do we know this? Because only 18% of you in this country voted for Donald Trump. Only 18% of you in 2020 voted for Donald Trump. You want to talk about it being a big win and a landslide in Iowa? Oh, well, guess what? Only 14% of registered Republicans voted in Iowa. Only 7% of them voted for Donald Trump. This is not going to be some sort of landslide. Is he going to be the front runner in the Republican Party? Is he going to defeat Nikki Haley? Obviously, yes. I don't believe he's going to defeat Joe Biden because there's too many decent people in this country, like that wonderful 77-year-old lady, God bless her. There's too many reasonable people in this country, even Republicans, that are not a part of the cult. They're not a part of this cult. I can shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and they would still vote for me. Not her. There are too many decent people in this country. And even though some of you might not like Joe Biden, even though some of you might not like Democrats, you might not like some of Joe Biden's policies, when you get to that poll booth, you're still going to say to yourself, I can't find it in my heart to vote for this despicable human being in Donald Trump. And that is why Trump is going to lose in November.
And Shap, let me add to that, okay? Because when it comes to politics, my friend, let me fill some people in out there because there's been a lot of chatter for the last handful of months, okay, regarding Donald Trump's chances to win in 2024 and obviously bringing up Joe Biden's poll numbers and, how they sank and everybody was, a lot of Democrats and a lot of independents that support Biden or that would be prone to support Biden or, kind of sweating a little bit saying, oh, yeah, Donald Trump has a chance. Yes, Donald Trump has a chance. But politics, folks, is about addition, not subtraction, okay? And that vote right there, yes, it's an anecdotal situation. But there are millions of Americans out there that have the same sentiment that she has, okay? And the idea that Donald Trump has added voters from 2020 to 2024 is absurd. It's absurd. You just laid out the number. You just laid out, by the way, you just laid out the mindset that a lot of people should have. But let me tell you what's gonna come down to in 2024. This is another misconception that people have. They think that you need to turn Donald Trump voters into Biden voters. They think that you need to turn Joe Biden voters into Donald Trump voters. That's not how it works, okay? Whoever wins the 2024 election, it's going to be about turnout, okay? It's going to be about getting your people out to vote. And the bottom line and the fact is this: we have the numbers, okay? Donald Trump's people, the MAGA people, do not have the numbers. You are up against the 8 ball, folks. You MAGA people are shorthanded, okay? Now, can you pull an inside straight like you did in 2016 and possibly pull off some miracle in 2024? Yes, it's a possibility, but it's a very small possibility. And it's very frustrating for me, Brian Shapiro, to hear a lot of people talk about it like it's more than just a very scarce possibility. They talk about it like, oh my God, hey, look over your shoulder because Donald Trump is right there. He's right there with Joe Biden. He's right there. No, he's not. Okay? No, he's not. When it comes to, if you want to look at the numbers seriously and you want to take an overall perspective of what the American electorate is here in 2024 early on.
I want to play you a clip too because Brett Baer had a chance to interview Donald Trump yesterday. And cut 7 is Brett Baer asking Donald Trump about all these nicknames that he has for all these different types of people, just calling people names and nicknaming all different sorts of idiots. Some idiots, some not idiots. But I want you to listen to Donald Trump's answer. Keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, this is a man who was the president of the United States with a huge platform, was the leader of the free world, and wants to be reelected as the next president of the United States. And Brett Baer is asking him a very fair question. Listen to how childish his answer is. Have a listen to this.
And now she says that you're using a nickname based on her given name, Nimrata. You called her Nimbra in a post the other day. Why do you do that?
Well, I do that with a lot of people, like Hutchinson. I mean, he was polling at 0 for about 1 year, and I called him, rather than Asa, I called him Ada Hutchinson, and it just felt good to me. And with her, it's just something that came. It's a little bit of a takeoff on her name, her name, wherever she may come from. But it's just.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean?
It's a little bit of a takeoff. I look at her name. I look at a lot of people. I do a lot of names for people, like Pocahontas. She said, my mother said I look like an Indian, so I started calling her Pocahontas. Some people say I'm very good at that, but I can't get into too many because many of those people that I named like that are Republicans, and we don't want to bring that up. But no, it's just it's a takeoff. I have fun with it. And sometimes, to tell you the truth, it's a very effective tool.
Well, I'll start by saying this. He said it feels good to me. I can guarantee you he's never been in the confines of hanging out with a woman that's ever said that to him. I'll tell you that. But when he says it feels good to me, it's a good technique. He calls it a technique that is very effective. Well, maybe it's effective to a MAGA jackass that thinks the president of the United States is some position that's supposed to be entertaining and some sort of comedian when he's insulting. And by the way, these have racist connotations to it. What he's doing with Nikki Haley is beyond despicable. What he's done with the Pocahontas comments with Elizabeth Warren is absolutely despicable. These aren't just nicknames, making fun of somebody's hands or making fun of their hair. This isn't just a nickname, folks. This is racial, okay? And this is the guy because you don't like some of Joe Biden's policies. You would vote for a man, an insulter in chief, and somebody who makes racist statements and makes racist nicknames about people. I mean, it's beyond despicable and it's indefensible. And for some of these MAGA morons out there that are uneducated that say, oh, I think he's really funny. Well, here's what I think you should do. I think you should brush your tooth and go to sleep and understand that your MAGA friend, your orange turd friend of yours, is going to be done. He's going to be done. And Anthony Scaramucci, who's going to be joining us on the show Thursday, said, Trump is going to get embarrassed again in November. I hope that's the case, but he does make a fair point or question where he says the question now is, will he be running in 2028?
So, Brian, let me look at you and let me chime in on this. What are we doing here? This is another one of those situations when I have to ask that question to the American public. What are we doing here? Okay? We're grown adults, and we're operating in a manner where you're bringing up nicknames for people, and you're ranking nicknames, and you're talking about how effective they can be on people as far as increasing your popularity. I mean, are we really this juvenile, folks out there? Are we really at a point in America right now where this is how we operate as adults? You know the discussion that everybody brings up when they talk about someone like a Donald Trump, someone like that, a person like that, and they say, I can't have my kids acting like this person, and then you hear a clip like that, and it's like,
it's embarrassing.
It's what are we doing? Like, what are you doing? And it just gets me so infuriated that we are at a point in America right now where someone like this is actually looked to and is one of the final choices in a matter of months. And we haven't even gotten into all the other stuff that's going on regarding him legally and all this.
We will.
But we will. This is one of the guys. This is one of the people.
Well, he's the main guy.
That the American public is going to have to decide whether or not you want him to be the leader of the free world again.
Well, here's
it's unbelievable.
Something else that I will add to this is you have a lot of Republicans back in 2015, like the Ted Cruzes of the world, who are saying he's unfit, everything he says is a lie, and yet they go back and they support him. Nikki Haley, all due respect to her, because she's probably a little bit more normal than some of these other right-wing MAGAs, because she's not really a MAGA.
She definitely is.
But here's what is a fact. She is going after Trump, but I guarantee you in a few weeks when Nikki Haley drops out, she's going to endorse Donald Trump. But this is what Nikki Haley had to say yesterday in some more criticism about Donald Trump.
I've seen the mail that you've been reading. And every single thing that Donald Trump has said or put on TV has been a lie. Check with the fact checkers. Every single thing.
Everything that Donald Trump has said about me is a lie. I guarantee you, put a stamp on it, ladies and gentlemen, in a couple weeks, because that's about how long it will be, when Nikki Haley drops out of the presidential race, she will, in her speech, when she drops out, support Donald Trump. Because so many of these Republicans, not all of them, we have Joe Walsh on the show all the time, Chris Christie is another one, Adam Kinzinger is another one, Mitt Romney. There are some Republicans out there that are willing to speak truth and back it up with endorsements. And Mitt Romney has already said that he would vote for Joe Biden over Donald Trump. God bless him. I was right about Mitt Romney and his character when he ran against Barack Obama. I don't always agree with him, but I respect him. Same thing with Liz Cheney. How can you respect Nikki Haley? Listen, she has a tremendous amount of experience. She's obviously a very intelligent person, even though she doesn't really know what caused the Civil War. But with that being said, she's an accomplished lady with a resume. I guarantee you she is going to endorse Donald Trump. And like so many others in the Republican Party today, they wear the Donald Trump knee pads. They'll say things when they run against him. They'll say things when they're not sure if he's going to win. Back in 2015, they'll call him some of the worst things. Incompetent, unfit, stupid, liar, you name it. But then they'll support him. Oh, we just don't like some of Joe Biden's policies. What does that say about you, Nikki Haley? Now, prove me wrong, Nikki Haley. Prove me wrong. In a couple weeks, when you back out of the race, because it's just a matter of time, I think you're going to do exactly what Ron DeSantis did, because Ron DeSantis has no backbone like so many others in the Republican Party today. You're going to stand up there on a stage and you're going to support Donald Trump, because you're the same person who said if you win and you become president of the United States, you're going to pardon Donald Trump. Because, if you're the former president of the United States, there shouldn't be any accountability. Oh, unless you're the president's son who's never been a politician before. I would ask Nikki Haley, would you pardon Hunter Biden? No, I wouldn't do that. Oh, why not? Why not? Wouldn't that bring the country together? But Nikki Haley will be on a stage, mark my words, in a couple weeks, and she will be endorsing Donald Trump, because they are pathetic, because they have no backbone, because they have no decency and no moral compass. They have already been on a stage and asked, if Donald Trump is a convicted felon, will you still support him? And almost all of them on that stage raised their hand yes. And it was Ron DeSantis, who's a coward. Oh, he's looking both ways. Oh, are they going to raise their hand? You frickin' coward. That's the Republican Party today. There are so many few in the party that have a backbone. There are so many few in the party that would raise their hand and say, no, if Donald Trump is a convicted felon, I will not support him as president. I'm not saying I would support Joe Biden, because they don't have to say that, but I'm not going to support a convicted felon. There is no moral compass on the far right in the Republican Party today, and it's going to show its eyes once again when Nikki Haley says that she is going to endorse Donald Trump.
Look, here's the thing. When we, and I'm talking about we, I'm talking about you, Brian Shapiro, myself, others, when we ask that question, why do you still support Donald Trump, right? Or why are they all going to convalesce behind Donald Trump, right? Once Nikki Haley does drop. And by the way, one of the few correct things that your guest, Carmine Sabia, said yesterday on the show was I think his prediction is going to be absolutely right when it comes to Nikki Haley. She's absolutely going to drop out before South Carolina because right now she's 30 points behind Donald Trump in her home state. And who wants to go into a primary in her home state and get absolutely embarrassed and lambasted by the orange turd? So she's going to drop out. So it's going to be the Donald Trump situation where he's in front, and it's going to be all the R's behind him, supporting him. All right? But the reason they do it is because he has an R next to his name. It's the only reason. People want to banter about and say, how can you put up with what he says? How can you put up with, his ideas of fascism where he says he wants to be a dictator on day one when he gets in the White House? It's because Republicans are going to support a Republican because Republicans will be able to do what the GOP wants to do once a Republican's in office. What happened between 2016 and 2020, right? All the Supreme Court justices, the 2017 tax cut for the rich, right, that took place. You have anything that Republicans wanted to put in place, it was very much easier because Donald Trump was in the White House, right? It wasn't because Donald Trump is some hardcore ideologist when it comes to the Republican Party. It's not because Donald Trump supports everything Republicans support, right? It's not because Donald Trump had policies. It's because Republicans can do what Republicans want to do when Donald is in office. And if he gets back in office in 2024.
It is
That's why.
And we're going to open up the phone lines here at 702-221-7283. But isn't it interesting, ladies and gentlemen, that if you speak to a MAGA Republican, they will blame Joe Biden for the war in the Ukraine. They will blame Joe Biden for what took place in Israel and Hamas. But then when you bring up things like, a global pandemic, because Donald Trump is so tough on China, that happened under Donald Trump. But then they'll say, oh, no, that wasn't Donald Trump's fault. They'll blame Joe Biden for the debacle that took place in Afghanistan with the withdrawal of troops. But then if you ask Bolton, who was once in Trump's administration, he has said on the record that Donald Trump's withdrawal would have been the exact same. But you see, MAGA Republicans can't spell the word fact. And when you compare our country right now to all the other countries that we compare ourselves to, we can compare it to the gas prices in this country. We're doing really well compared to a lot of the other countries that we compare ourselves to. Or inflation, the price of eggs. Compare inflation in the United States of America to some of the other countries in the world that we compare ourselves to. We're doing pretty damn good. We have the lowest unemployment rate in 50 years. Oh, but Brian, those are all COVID jobs. No, they're not. And obviously, you're not an economist. Some of them are. A lot of them are not. And you could look that up if you don't believe me. Gas prices have been heading in the right direction for a year and a half. Inflation has been on its way down. More job growth. The unemployment numbers are the lowest they've been in 50 years. We had the infrastructure bill. We had gun legislation put on the books. We had health care put in place for our brave men and women in uniform. Chris served. Brave men and women in uniform helped to Jon Stewart and Joe Biden. And then when we have a crisis, like, for example, all these MAGA idiots want to blame Joe Biden for the crisis at the border. I do believe it's a crisis. But what they don't want to talk about is the failed policy of Donald Trump. We're going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. Oh, but Brian, 100,000 more illegals have crossed the border under Joe Biden. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had issues at the border for decades and decades and decades. And I didn't hear these Republicans complaining about it under the George W. Bush days. But I will say this. When Joe Biden and the Democrats and Mayorkas want to actually do something about it, meaning more funding so we could get more border security, what do Republicans do? Ladies and gentlemen, what do? They vote against it because they don't care about the border. They just want a talking point to attack Joe Biden on. They don't want to talk about the over 300,000 people that died of drug overdoses under the Donald Trump administration. Oh, no. Let's talk about all the drug overdoses now. It's a problem. It's not a Republican problem. It's not a Democrat problem. It's an American problem. And last I checked, I don't see Democrats voting against something that would help the American people just so they could bash the other side. That's exactly what Republicans are doing. Joe Biden wants more money to fund the wall. I'm sorry, not the wall, to fund more border security agents at the border. I think just about every decent human being that's an American in this country would be okay with that, except MAGA Republicans that vote it down. So I don't want to hear from Republicans about how we have a border crisis. We have a crisis at the border when you won't fund it. And the only time you will fund it is if we have a Republican as president of the United States. Because just like Ron DeSantis, you would rather treat human beings as pawns than actually doing the right thing. So I don't want to hear from Republicans how they care so much about border security. It's an absolute freaking joke.
And to your point, Brian, when it comes to the economy in America, right, where and this narrative out there that Donald Trump, economy good, Joe Biden, economy not so good, right, and at times bad. Nancy Mace got herself in some hot water because of comments she made in the last 24 hours where she made this, again, false statement. Every time we have to talk about something like this, there's always some Republican that says something that's not true, okay? Let me tell you something. I'm a Democrat, okay? If a Democrat goes out there and says something that's not true, call them out, and we can clarify that it's not true. We can do that. But it never happens with the Republicans. But I get back to Nancy Mace. Nancy Mace comes out and says, yeah, everything, every single aspect of the economy under Donald Trump was better than it is under Joe Biden. Yeah. Absolutely, patently a false statement. It is not factually accurate. There are a number of aspects of the economy, and you just pointed them out, by the way, a number of them when it comes to the joblessness and across the board, as far as what has transpired between 2020 and 2024 with Joe Biden and between 2016 and Donald Trump. So, again, there's so much misinformation out there with respect to Joe Biden and his impact as far as the American economy and how positive, Donald Trump is. Donald Trump just this wizard when it comes to the economy and being president of the United States and the impact of it.
So here's what we're going to do, Chris. Okay. We are going to take a break. And when we come back, we'll open up the phone lines. We'll take some calls. That number, by the way, if you want to be a part of the show, 702-221-7283. And again, that number, if you want to be a part of the program, 702-221-SAVE, 702-221-7283. When we come back, we do have some more audio to play for you. A big win for the Biden administration, I would think. In Texas, the Supreme Court has ruled in Biden's favor when it comes to this barbed wire story. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but we're going to talk about that when we come back. And Greg Abbott, in real time right now, is defying what the Supreme Court ruled on. And Marjorie Taylor Greene almost performing fellatio on Donald Trump in New Hampshire. Yes, we'll talk a little bit about that as well. We have some audio to play for you. Again, taking your calls when we come back, 702-221-7283. Your phone calls when we come back. We'll take a quick break. He's Chris Wynn. I'm Brian Shapiro. It's Pushing Limits right here on KSHP. All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining us. Those watching on the World Wide Web, the FMAM dial, Occupy Democrats Network, do us a favor and click on that subscribe button on Occupy Democrats. It's only $5 a month. You're supporting the show. And the good news also is you get extra exclusive content from yours truly. Click on that subscribe button. Chris Wynn joining us in studio. We're taking your calls. In a few minutes here, we are going to get to this Texas barbed wire decision made by the Supreme Court in favor of Joe Biden. Also have some very interesting Marjorie Taylor Greene audio to play for you as well, and it involves Hunter Biden. We'll get to that, but the first segment, we're talking about the New Hampshire caucuses and the primaries in New Hampshire. And we played some audio from Donald Trump, and we're taking your calls on that. Does anybody disagree with me? We all know that Nikki Haley is going to support Donald Trump as president. I mean, to me, you lose all credibility when you speak out against him and then, but you know what? I'm going to support him because I don't like that guy, Joe Biden. Number to call, 702-221-7283. And again, that number, 702-221-7283. All right, let's start the show with the PTL resident MAGA Republican who we always love taking phone calls from. Let's start off with Julie. Julie, what's going on?
Yes, hi. I want to remind you that Trump built 400 miles of the wall.
16%. I want to remind you that he built 16% and Mexico didn't pay for it.
And
so
it wasn't 400 miles, was it? I don't think it was 400 miles.
Let me finish. Let me finish because...
Well, I mean, no, wait, time out. Julie. You can't come on and just say something that's not accurate, and we're not going to let you keep going, okay? If you're going to say something that's wrong, we're going to point it out.
It's in the National Archive.
Okay, go ahead, Julie.
Of the government,
he built 16% of the wall. That's in the National Archives too. So go ahead.
400 miles to be exact.
You already said
that.
The
National Archive.
You already said
the
that.
Government of. Okay, the illegal crossing plummeted 87% in the part that was built. So that means that the work was working.
Hey, Julie.
On day one.
Julie.
Okay, let me finish, please.
Julie, he said on day one he was going to build a wall and Mexico was going to pay for it. He built 16. You could give me the miles all you want. You could give me the miles and the statistics all you want. Let me finish. Let me finish.
Let me finish.
Let me finish.
You never allow me to speak.
That's what Donald Trump told.
You always interrupt me.
Yeah, well, that's what Donald Trump told Stormy Daniels in 16 seconds. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Julie. That was a little.
Don't change the subject.
Levity. That was a levity. Julie, can't you laugh?
I'm going to talk about the wall.
Julie, can't you laugh? I tried to make you laugh there. Aren't you capable of laughing and having a little bit of levity?
Yes.
Can you admit Donald Trump is just disgusting to look at? Be honest with me, Julie. Would you allow Donald Trump to be in your room naked? Be honest. Yes or no? Julie, I want you to be honest with me. Don't lie.
I don't care what Trump is.
Do you think?
Well,
clearly.
Wait a minute. You don't care.
I care about his policies.
Oh, you care.
I care about his policies.
Okay, so let me ask you a question.
I don't want to have a poet in
sure.
the White House.
Okay.
Right? And then destroy our country.
Julie, I understand. Okay. So Julie, I understand. Julie, I understand that you're not capable of having a sense of humor. So, Julie, if you care about policy, Julie, okay, let's move beyond that. It was attempted a joke, and obviously you don't have a sense of humor, but that's okay. So, Julie, would you say that it would be a failed policy when somebody runs on, we're going to lock up Hillary Clinton, and we're going to build a wall, and Mexico's going to pay for it, and he built 16% of the wall, Mexico didn't pay for it, and he didn't even hire a special prosecutor that he said he would go after Hillary Clinton. Would you call those two failed policies since you care so much about policy?
Okay.
Please answer the question.
Yes, I'm going to answer, but you never allow me to answer.
Please answer the question.
Be quiet, please.
Please answer the question.
Okay. Donald Trump did not jail Hillary Clinton because he's not a dictator. That's why.
Oh, okay. So let me ask you. Okay, fine. So he didn't do it because he's not a dictator. So let me ask you another question. Then why did he run on it in 2015? Why did he say he was going to hire a special prosecutor to go after Hillary Clinton? If you think, he would never do that because he's not a dictator, then why did he run on it in his campaign? Please answer the question.
Because he's not in control of the Department of Justice.
Then why did he say, Julie, hey, Julie, then why did he say he was going to do it? If you're saying he's not capable of doing it, then why would the idiot...
All politicians
no, they don't. No, they don't.
Listen.
Name me something Joe Biden said he was going... Name me something that Joe Biden said he was going to do that he was unable to do or that he couldn't legally do.
Joe Biden has been in power since 1969.
That's not. I didn't ask you how long. I didn't ask you. The question wasn't. Name me a lie. Name me a lie.
Since 1969.
Okay. So Julie, I need you to focus. Julie, I need you to focus. The question wasn't how long Joe Biden has been in office. Now you just said Joe Biden is a liar. I find that very interesting, considering you're a Donald Trump supporter who lied 30,000 times when he was in office. That's documented. Can you name me one specific lie, a big lie, that Joe Biden made in his long tenure in office? Can you name me one?
Biden has been lying since he was a senator.
Excuse me, Julie. The question, Julie, I need you to focus.
Story.
Can you please put her down?
Long story.
Okay, Julie. The question wasn't, again, how long has Joe Biden been in office? I need you to focus, MAGA. I need you to focus. Maybe picturing Donald Trump naked would help you. I don't know. But I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you the question again, Julie. Okay. Picture Donald Trump naked. Okay. Julie, name me a specific lie that Joe Biden did in his entire tenure. Again, Julie, the question wasn't how long Joe Biden's been in office. The question wasn't a generalization answer like he's a liar. Name me a specific lie, and if it helps you thinking of Donald Trump with his shirt off, then you go ahead and do that. Go ahead, Julie.
Okay. Listen, Brian. You are very smart at changing topics, and you're not going to do that.
Okay, Julie, I'm not changing the subject. I need you to focus, okay? You claim that Joe Biden is a liar, and he's been a liar his entire long career when he's been in office. I'm not changing the topic at all. You made a claim, and now I'm asking you to give me a specific example. And if you can't do that, I'm going to move on to the next caller. I'm probably going to move on to the next caller anyway, Julie.
Okay.
But give me an example.
Right.
Please, Brian, please do it.
All right. Biden has done zero for this country.
Have a nice day, Julie.
Julie phone call, Brian Shapiro, always just full of substance and
Julie,
so much to talk about.
So, Julie, when you call somebody a liar,
brutal,
when you call somebody a liar, you have to actually, back that up. And your only response, was how long he's been in office. Have a nice day, Julie. And good luck with picturing Donald Trump, wearing a Speedo.
Shap, think about it. I mean, she doesn't even understand when you're mocking her. She doesn't even know when you're mocking her. She actually just.
I'm just trying to get an
pauses.
answer.
No. What do you mean?
Just trying to get an answer from
You're
her.
mocking
That's
the
all.
crap out of her.
702-221.
It's awesome.
702-221-7283. I'm just trying to get an answer. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Lisa. Lisa's next on Pushing the Limits. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, guys.
Hi. What's on your mind?
There?
Go ahead. Yep.
Okay. All I want to do is hear the candidates tell us what's their plan, how they're going to do it, who's going to pay for it. I want details, whether it's immigration, health care, fentanyl. What's your plan?
I agree.
Absolutely.
Pay for it.
Makes a ton of sense.
So, Lisa, when Republicans complain about the Biden administration, they complain about the border, they complain about Obamacare. There you go.
They complain about Biden. They complain about Joe.
They don't have a replacement plan. They don't have a plan if abortion was illegal, which thank God in this country in most states it's not. They don't have a plan for Medicare, Social Security. Some of them want to take it away. They don't have a plan for raising minimum wage. That's the problem with there's a lot of problems with the Republican Party today, but they don't have any solutions to any of the problems facing the country. They're all Jim Jordans. They're all gymnasium Jordans. They're noisemakers. They're not lawmakers.
Well, I guess what my thinking is that, well, finish. Go on.
No, I mean, that's just my opinion of as a whole, the Republican Party today. They're not lawmakers. They're noisemakers. They bitch and they complain about Obamacare as a perfect example. Yet remember when Trump said.
That's all they do.
Right, exactly, Lisa.
That's all they do is they complain. They point fingers. They say they're going to change this and what we need in our country is to change that. Okay, tell me your plan. How are you going to do it?
They don't have
Who's going to pay for it? Whether it's, like I said, immigration. Let's go there with immigration. Mm-hmm. No president has been able to really corral that, or for lack of better words. Yeah. And I'm talking about no president. And Trump, oh my God, he made such a big deal out of it. And yes, I absolutely, that's one of the things I point out is he said he was going to build a wall on the first day and Mexico was going to pay for it. How absurd absurd.
But guess what?
It's
A lot of
just
these people that believe him when he says things like that. I could end the Ukraine war in a day because they got bird for brains. They're just idiots. They believe every word that Donald Trump says. Now, not every Republican believes Donald Trump. Not there are smart, reasonable Republicans out there. I have many friends of mine that I was just talking to yesterday about this. But there is a large portion of the Republican base, the MAGA deplorables, that believe every word this moron says. And like I say it before, and I'll say it again, brush your tooth, go to sleep. MAGA will be gone soon. Lisa, it is good to hear from you. I appreciate your phone call. And just hang in there because it's all going to be over soon and Biden's going to be reelected, okay?
Hey, thanks, guys. Hang in there.
You got it. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks,
Take care.
Lisa.
Bye-bye.
Good to hear from you. Bye-bye. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Who are we going to next here? Let's go to Roy. Roy is next on Pushing the Limits. What's up, Roy?
Hello, Brian. How you doing today?
Good. We are here with residential liberal Chris Wynn. He's keeping me company today, so you're talking to Chris as well. Yes, go ahead.
Well, the first thing I got to say is after you talk to Julie, I feel like my head is going to explode.
Yeah.
And as soon as you mentioned Donald Trump without clothes, my dogs left the room, just so you know. But anyway, a couple of different things. One, if you take away the ridiculous electoral college, the Republicans may never win another election.
Absolutely.
Agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The tax cut, which added almost $8 trillion to the deficit, was the only thing he accomplished, and it was crap. And I'm a financial guy. I could tell. Yeah. Every time you lower revenues and you don't change your expenses, your deficit gets bigger and bigger. It's not rocket science.
Yeah. Yeah.
He inherited a very good economy, which Obama did not inherit. Mm-hmm. He inherited crap from Bush. He inherited a very good economy, and at least he didn't destroy it until he handled the pandemic so poorly. And the disinfectant he talked about, he wanted people to drink Clorox. That sounds brilliant. I got to tell you, there was actually a representative in Florida who wanted to pass a bill giving $5 million to help Trump's defenses on these 91 felonies. And fortunately, even DeSantis couldn't go along with that. But the whole Republican Party, minus a handful, has turned to absolute shit. They are absolutely gutless. And
a lot of them are.
House,
I think, to be fair, I think there are a few that do have some guts or some dignity is probably the word I would
handful.
use. Yes,
handful.
Yes. Well, on a national stage, yeah, I know that there are local Republicans. Yeah. I'll give you an example. The former Nevada chair who's done this show plenty of times, Amy Tarkanian. She is no longer a MAGA supporter. She's anti-MAGA. She's anti-Trump. Now, the Republican Party here in Nevada has, ostracized her, for lack of a better term. But there are reasonable, decent people out there, more on the local level, not a lot on the national level. But I get what you're saying, Roy. I get it.
Well, anybody who has Marjorie Taylor Greene in their party has a problem. But as far as the border goes, the Senate actually passed a bill which Biden agreed to, giving more money for Ukraine and substantially more money to the border for different security. The Republican House will not even take it up as a vote.
You're right. I don't disagree with you, Roy. I appreciate your call as always. You always make good points, and I just hope that the overwhelming majority of the American people think like you, they think like me, they think like Chris, and get this orange turd out of politics for good. Roy, it's good to hear from you, and I appreciate it.
We hope so.
We hope so.
Take
yes,
care,
sir.
Guys.
Thank you, Roy.
Yeah, and a quick point,
Bye-bye.
too, noting what he mentioned as far as Donald Trump, right, and the election. Look, what's fascinating about this, too, right? Donald Trump has these 91 charges that he faces, right, in 4 separate jurisdictions that he's going to be dealing with leading up to the election. We have somebody who is the leading candidate in a major Republican, a major party here in America that is going to is trying to run for office and be in another election, who to this day, right now, still disputes the 2020 election.
Yeah.
To this day.
Correct.
Still thinks that it was rigged in 2020, yet he still wants everybody to, quote unquote, vote for him in 2024. You can't, it goes under the category, Brian, of you cannot make this stuff up again. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Agree.
Yeah.
702-221-7283. And again, that number, 702-221-7283. We have one phone line that's open right now. Let's go to Bob. Bob is next up on Pushing Limits. Hi, Bob. What's going on?
Hi, Brian. I don't know if you remember me. I suggested you call the orange turd Chief Sefayubi.
That's right. I do remember you. Yes.
Human being.
That's good stuff right there.
I like that.
Nice.
Right. Okay. I got a suggestion for you because I've been listening to you every day, and sometimes you get so excited, I'm afraid your head's going to burst. I take amlodipine, which I suggest maybe you should take so that your blood pressure doesn't go off the charts when you speak to some of these MAGA people.
I like it. A little medical recommendations for you,
Yeah,
Shaq,
well,
from the callers here.
You know, here's the thing.
It's good stuff.
I'll be honest with you, because a lot of people, Bob, that call in and they're like, Brian, your blood pressure. I enjoy it. When I'm outside of my profession, I don't. Sometimes I'll be on social media just battling some of these turds. And then I say I want 45 minutes of my life back. So I'm starting to get away from that. When they call into this show, I enjoy it and I welcome it. But outside of this radio show, I mean, Chris could even attest to this. Chris has some MAGA friends that tag me in text messages. And Chris could say, do I respond to it, Chris?
Here's the deal. I can speak to this, right? I can speak directly to this. And by the way, I'm in the same camp as Brian is to the caller, okay? You and I used to be much more engaged politically on social media, right? I mean, you and I both, I work in the sports media as well, too, here in town, as well as done a ton of radio around town. So obviously I'm someone who likes to get into debates, and Brian Shapiro's right there with me, right? I have not been someone who's been on social media going back and forth with people when it comes to politics in the last couple of years. I've tried to, much like to the caller, much like Brian, I have issues with my blood pressure as well, too. I'm someone who's kind of high-strung and wired up. So I've tried, that's one step that I've taken, and that Brian has taken as well, too, where you're just not as engaged on social media and getting into the spats with the MAGA people as much as I used to do. Now, on the air, that's a different story. And, I'm here for a couple hours here during the week, so whatever.
Bob, it's good to hear from you, Bob. I appreciate your phone call, and I'm going to use your nickname down the road of Donald Trump. I appreciate that, and I welcome any other nicknames if anybody wants to call in. Bob, it's good to hear from you. You have a good day, okay?
All right.
Take care, Bob.
You too.
Thank you.
Take care, Brian.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. All right, 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Of course, the New Hampshire primaries. We played some audio from Orange Turd earlier. Let's go to Henry. Henry is next up on Pushing Limits. What's up, Henry?
Hey, what's up?
How you doing?
What's up, Henry?
Hey, so I noticed you guys haven't talked too much about Dean Phillips. What's your take on that guy running?
Yeah, good question. You know, no one's asked me that question. So, Henry, here's how I feel about Dean Phillips. He wouldn't get 1% of the vote. Nobody knows a lot about him. His intention of running against Joe Biden was not because he thought he could defeat Joe Biden and Democrats would vote for him. He's just trying to make a name for himself. That's all he's doing. In my opinion, he's another opportunist. Now, I agree with him on a lot of social issues, but anybody who gets into this race and nobody knows who they are, they have no chance to get more support than Joe Biden. Now, if Michelle Obama got in there, the governor of California, these are very well-known people. But we're talking about a guy named Dean Phillips. I didn't know who the hell Dean Phillips was before he entered into this. He has no chance. So I think he's an opportunist. He's raising money and looking ahead to his political career. That's what I think.
Dean Phillips actually has less name recognition than someone like a Marianne Williamson, right? Marianne Williamson would be someone more noteworthy than he is. So I think along the same lines as I think about Dean, I think of Vivek Ramaswamy, right? Someone who's getting into the race because they want to elevate their name. When it came to Vivek Ramaswamy, right, on the right, when it came to Republicans, I don't think Vivek Ramaswamy thinks that he's going to be a part of a Trump administration. First of all, because I don't think there's going to be another Trump administration.
Oh, I disagree with that.
But Vivek, wait, time out. So Vivek Ramaswamy, all he wants to do, I think, this is my opinion, is that he wants to just elevate his name. He wants to end up having a very popular podcast. Maybe he gets a gig with one of these right-wing outlets or with Fox News or whatever. But like Vivek Ramaswamy, look, there's no. I mean, you think he's running for president because he wants to be part of a Trump administration that most likely is not going to be.
There's a reason why he's afraid to upset the MAGA base, and there's also a reason why he's now been brown-nosing and continues to brown-nose Donald Trump. He's not going to be Donald Trump's vice presidential candidate, but there's no question in my mind he wants to be in Donald Trump's cabinet, period. He wants to work for Donald Trump. He wants to be in his administration. I don't think that's going to happen because I don't think Donald Trump is going to win.
Well, that's what I just said.
What else you got for me, my friend? Anything else? You there? Anything else you got for
Hello?
us? Yeah, go ahead. Do you have anything else?
Oh, no, that was my only question. Thanks.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you. Good question.
Yeah.
702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go back to the phone lines. And who are we going to? Who's been waiting on hold the longest, Justin? Let's go to Charles. Charles is next up on Pushing the Limits. Hi, Charles.
Hey guys, what's going on?
Hey,
What's up?
What's up, Charles?
Nothing. I feel like calling in because I think you guys attacked Julie there pretty harsh. I think that was pretty harsh on Julie, and I think that some of your facts are just not correct.
Wait, time out. Do you listen to the show every day? Because I listen to the show every day. When I'm hardly ever on here. But do you listen to the show every day?
So I'm obviously on the show, so I listen to it.
Gotcha. Okay, so you've heard Julie on the show. She calls every single day.
All right. Well,
So
you know what she calls, and she makes.
And do you hear the substance of what she says when she calls every day?
Left. You know.
Okay, hold on.
Okay,
Chris, let me take care of this, Chris, for a moment.
Well, I mean, I guess. Yeah.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so
Come on, Brian.
Okay, so first of all, it breaks my heart that you think I'm too tough on a caller who calls in. Hold on. A caller who calls in. Can I finish my sentence? Thank you very much.
Go ahead. Come on.
I appreciate that. That's very nice of you to letting the host talk. When a caller calls in, a MAGA caller, and they say myths, truths, and they don't answer questions directly. For example, if somebody says Joe Biden's a liar, and then I ask them, respectfully, by the way, name me a lie, because I'm willing to have that conversation, and she doesn't do it, and I ask her multiple times, it's very frustrating. Now, I'm also going to tell you, because clearly you don't know what you're talking about. While I lean to the left, well, why don't you listen, and I'll educate you. While I lean to the left on social issues, I am a registered independent. I didn't vote for Barack Obama. I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. I voted for 8 Republicans in the 2022 elections. But you see, I hope you don't think I'm being too rude about you, okay? But you see, just because I'm anti-MAGA, meaning anti-Donald Trump, doesn't equate to me being a lefty. See, call me crazy, sir, but I don't want to support a man who's a liable sexual abuser. I don't want to support a man who's faced... Hold on, I'm not done yet. I don't want to support a man who attacks POWs, attacks a man for being captured as a POW, attacks women on looks, attacks Gold Star families, a snake oil salesman, a con artist, and a racist. Now, call me crazy if you call me intolerant. I don't want somebody like that to be the leader of the free world.
That Trump said?
Sure. You got it. I'll answer that, and I'll answer it directly. What would you call somebody who says they don't want black people counting their money in their casinos? They want Jews counting their money. What would you call that, sir?
When did he say this? When was the
in Playboy magazine, and he didn't deny it when he
said. It was said.
And wait, I'm not done yet. By the way, just because you say something racist 30 years ago doesn't make it any better. And by the way, to answer your
done more for the black community
excuse me. The question wasn't who's done more for the black community. You see, policies, like them or not, just because somebody puts a policy in place that might have held the black community doesn't excuse racist remarks that somebody has made in the past. That is not an excuse.
Joe Biden hasn't said any racist remarks, right?
Okay, so
let's be clear about that.
Okay, so hold on. I'll talk about. Hold on. I'll talk about that, and I'll gladly have that conversation with you. However, there's something in this world called, and MAGA supporters like you do it all the time. It's called whataboutism. This conversation was about. Hold on. This conversation. I gave you a direct quote from Donald Trump, which clearly any reasonable person would say, gosh, that's a terrible statement. He shouldn't have said that. Obviously,
he just wanted a question.
Obviously,
he wanted to ask if it was actually said.
Obviously, sir. Obviously, I'm not done. Obviously, sir, I'm not. Obviously, you're not capable of calling out a despicable statement. And what you do, what many other MAGA supporters do. What about that Joe Biden? How about that pedophile and that racist?
Hold on a second.
No,
That's not what I said.
You hold on a second.
I never verified your statement.
I don't care. I don't care.
Whatever.
Did Donald Trump win the 2020 election? If you want to talk about verifying. Who won the 2020 election, MAGA? Answer the question.
He's not in office. So
that's not what I asked you.
I
did not. Excuse me, sir. I didn't ask you who was in office. I asked you.
Joe Biden is in office,
sir. You're going to answer. Hey, Julie. Hey, Julie. Pot him down. Pot him down. I'll take you down whatever hole I want, buddy. Okay, Julie. I'm going to ask you another question, Julie. You ready for this one?
You're very red right now, Brian. By the way.
Hey,
You're
Julie.
very fired up.
Hey, Julie. I didn't ask you who was in office. Pay attention. Who won a free and fair election? Who won the election? Donald Trump or Joe Biden, Julie? Answer the question.
Joe Biden is in office. He won the election.
Okay, so he won the election.
There you
Well,
go.
I'm glad you answered that. Hey, I got another question for you. If Donald Trump didn't say that the election was stolen and that Joe Biden cheated months before January 6th, does January 6th happen? Yes or no?
Did January 6th happen? Be more specific. What do you mean?
Okay, I'm going to be as specific as I can get with you, sir, and I'll repeat it again. Months before January 6th, Donald Trump said over and over again that the election was stolen and that Joe Biden cheated, and you just admitted that Joe Biden was a free and fair elected president. So my question to you is, if Trump didn't use those lies, which we both agree, I'm glad.
I want to back up.
Oh, no, we're not backing up.
No.
Yeah, hey, Brian, Brian, time out. Calm down, Brian. Didn't this call start with him because he was butthurt about how you treat Julie on the air?
Right.
That's how this call started. You guys kind of got off on a tangent here.
Yeah.
All right,
sir. I'm going to ask you the question one more. I'm going to ask you the question.
Still very red.
I'm going to ask you the question one more time. I find it interesting that I have to ask you questions several times for you to answer. I'm going to ask you this one more time. If Donald Trump didn't say that the election was stolen and that Joe Biden cheated and the election was rigged months before January 6th, answer the question. Does January 6th happen? Yes or no?
January 6th happened because people questioned the election.
And why did they? And why did
they do that?
And why did they? By the way, you're still not answering my question.
There was a dump of votes in the middle of the night.
No, there wasn't. You're a fool. Get off my show.
What a terrible answer.
You are a buffoon.
What a terrible
and
answer.
You are a fool, and you just proved it. You're in the same category as Julie, and you are a right-wing buffoon. There were no dumped votes. It's called mail-in ballots, you idiot. And mail-in ballots, by the way, Donald Trump, your orange turd hero, you probably pleasure yourself to him. A poster of Donald Trump in your bedroom, by the way. Donald Trump said, don't mail in ballot. He told Republicans not to do it. We were in the middle of a global pandemic, and there is no evidence that there was any wrongdoing there, and you are a fool who is not capable of answering the easiest of questions. Have a nice day, Julie the Fifth.
Let me chime in real quick here, Brian, because let your skin tone go down from red to white again. Here's the deal. Like that phone call, obviously, he started the phone call off talking about the demeanor that you have, right? When Julie, the caller, calls in the show, he calls in every day, okay? And I'm going to vouch for you, Brian, on this. When it comes to, look, you don't just randomly out of the blue are going to be disrespectful or attack phone callers, okay? There is a reason why Brian addresses Julie in the way that he does and why the discourse ends up going back and forth in a very disrespectful way. It's because Julie calls in to that last caller who just called in. Julie calls in and says absurd, ridiculous, factually inaccurate, sometimes crazy things, okay? That is why. Now, you started the phone call by saying, well, I can't believe you're that way to Julie when she calls in. I mean, and I don't agree with some of your facts. That's how you started the phone call. So that's why I chimed in immediately at the front. And then of course, Brian, you went on your rant and you ended up unloading on the guy, and that's fine. But the point being is that it's not just coming out of the blue, folks, okay? If you're going to come on the show as a caller, all right, or as a guest on the show, and you're going to say things that are ridiculous and that can be easily refuted or easily debated or easily destroyed by Brian Shapiro or myself, okay, you're going to get called out. And I'm going to point it out, and you're going to get owned, okay? And you're going to get embarrassed, all right? So it's not a situation where it's necessary we're trying to do it, but it is a situation where it happens.
Okay, let me just interject and say this. I find it very interesting that the last guy who called in thinks I'm too rude, and it gets him so upset that he calls in, but yet this is the same idiot who supports Donald Trump, who attacks women on looks.
Well, time out. You didn't. No, time out though. I don't know if he's a Trump supporter though. You didn't really let him get into his viewpoints.
I guarantee you, he's a Trump supporter.
Okay, so
I find it. Let me just. Finish,
I would agree with you.
Let me just finish my point. But he didn't, I find it interesting that these are the same people that think I'm rude if I call somebody a MAGA buffoon, but yet they have no problem voting for a proven liable rapist. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Al. Al is next up on Pushing Limits. What's up, Al?
Hey, Brian, you're my hero, brother. That's all I got to say. And then let me just say to Julie's brother there, who you just laid out.
It had to be a cousin, right, at least. Yeah.
What a stupid moron. Let me tell you something.
Hey, Al, don't be so rude. Al, don't be so rude.
I'm going to tell you like it is. The guy's an idiot.
Hey,
He's
Al,
a maggot.
isn't it interesting that they call people like us snowflakes? Don't you find that interesting?
Yeah. Well, let me take it to another level. Donald Trump shouldn't be brought up on those 92 felonies. What he should be brought up on is treason.
I don't disagree with you.
He is a modern day Adolf Hitler. He's a liar. Like you said, he's a racist. He's nothing but a piece of you know what.
Yeah.
You know what? The man is an embarrassment, not only to the country, he's an embarrassment to his family, but I still don't understand why these people like Jim Jordan, Marjorie Taylor, DeSantis, whatever, the guy down in Florida, the governor, why do they still stick up to him or support him?
I'll tell you why.
Go
ahead. Give me your biggest reason, and then I'll give you my reason.
I think maybe he has something on him, like maybe Marjorie Taylor's really dude in real life or something. I don't know.
Well, Republicans would have a problem with that then because they don't like transgenders. But anyway, let me give you my reasoning, and then Chris will give you his. I think there are two different reasons why people suck up to Donald Trump, for lack of a better word. People like Ted Cruz, they know that Donald Trump is a human piece of scum. By the way, so is Ted Cruz. But the reason why they kiss his ass is because they don't want to upset the MAGA base of the party, which is a large base of the party, because they want to remain in power. That's the first reason. And then there's the other reason. There are the people like the Lauren Boeberts and maybe more Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Marjorie Taylor Greenes of the world, who actually adore Donald Trump. The ones who actually think that Donald Trump is actually good for the country and cares about the United States of America. Now, there are some that are in between, right, that are a little bit of both. But most of the Republicans that are in office today, they've said it in 2015 when he was running, when they didn't think he was going to win. They know who Donald Trump is. Lindsey Graham, for example. All the bad things he said about Trump and the honest things, by the way, Lindsey Graham said about Trump. He knows Donald Trump is a scumbag, Marco Rubio, all these people. But they're such bad human beings with no backbone that all they care about is remaining in power, even if a sexual abuser rapist is the president of the United States. It's okay for them so long as they remain as a senator or a congressman. Gymnasium Jordan, the enabler of sexual assault, by the way, he has never passed a bill in his entire career. Yet my guest yesterday said that he was great. He rallies up the troops. No, he doesn't, because these are not lawmakers. These are noisemakers, and they're willing to support a sexual abuser and rapist so long as they can remain in power.
I mean, it's like the Hunter Biden situation. Honestly, as an American, he said, what do I care if Hunter Biden made millions and millions of dollars if he used his dad's name? Who cares? How does that affect me? But they forget that Donald Trump had his whole family working in the White House.
Correct.
I mean, but nothing said about that. They are.
You are right. Well, I try to talk.
I don't know what to call these people.
Well, they're right-wing buffoons. At least that's all I can say on the radio. But I will say this, and I want to get Chris's. Chris, what's your take? Do you agree with me?
Well, here's the thing. When it comes to Donald Trump, right? Why they support him, right? The whole MAGA thing, and look, the reason MAGA exists, right, is because there's a handful of reasons why, right? A, they were fascinated back in 2015 with Trump from the celebrity standpoint, right? He's a loud, boisterous, likes to give the middle finger to the establishment guy. And so there's an aspect of that in MAGA, right? They love that, right? They always talk, he's not a politician. He's a guy who says it like it is. And he's going to, he stands up. There's this image that he's a tough guy when he really isn't a tough guy. He's really a pansy. But there's this image that he is.
The white extreme, yeah.
Then there's also the aspect of the deplorables, right? The deplorables that Hillary Clinton brought up, right? She said there was too many of them. She said there was half. It's not half. But there is a segment of this American population, and a population here in our country, folks, okay, that is racist. They think the country's being taken over by minorities, right? They think that black and brown people are going to be invading the country, right? The invasion of the country thing.
Right.
There's people there's that aspect of it too. Then there are the people, okay, and this comes in with the politicians, right? Where they love the Supreme Court justices, don't they, right, guys? From 2016 to 2020, right? Getting the three Supreme Court justices that are conservative. They love the things that were put into place that Republicans wanted. So that's kind of the thing. That's why MAGA still is alive today, because those people, they're still hanging on for dear life. They're hanging on for dear life, guys. And what's going to be fascinating to me, and I'm sure it's going to be for you guys as well too. What's going to happen when, I don't know why we don't talk about this, when Donald Trump passes away? What's going to happen when Donald Trump is gone?
He's going to be buried on the second hole. That's what's going to happen.
Exactly. But no, I'm talking about the movement, though.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Al, I
What's
appreciate
going to happen?
Go ahead.
Can I say something to answer that? Well, Donald Trump. If I was Donald Trump, I'd be looking about how a lot of these great dictators that he likes, how they ended their lives. So something to wake up about.
Yeah, maybe. I think they should. Maybe Kim Jong-un could hold his funeral. I don't know.
Mussolini, Adolf Hitler.
Well, let me tell you something. When Donald Trump does pass away, I would be willing to bet you that the Bush family and the Obama family will not be there, and there's a reason why for that. I'd be willing to bet that. Al, thank you so much for the phone call.
Hey, guys, great show.
Thank you,
sir.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Al, for tuning in and calling in. 702. It's so interesting. These people, even on the Occupy Democrats network, there are people that are, some of them, few, but some that are against me. And they say I'm duping people, and then I say, well, why don't you call in and tell me? And they never have an answer to that.
To be honest, though, Brian, as I'm on the Occupy Democrats network right now, looking at the comments, it's mostly Democrats like myself. It's mostly my fellow Democrats.
I understand that.
Okay,
of course.
Yes, there are going to be Republicans that are going to chime in and throw their little 2 cents in. But again, substance matters, right? If you're going to come with a comment and a take.
Yeah.
Come with some substance, baby.
Let's take another
call.
call.
Come with something that actually matters.
702-221-7283. And again, the number 702-221-7283. Let's go to Daryl. Daryl's next. What's up, Daryl?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing
How
good,
we doing, Daryl?
What's on your mind?
Yeah, I'm just kind of scrolling through Facebook, and I just kind of came across this, and I put my ears into it, and I started getting a little insulted over this Julie chick. I get it, but, you seem like the regular Democrat in my life. If you can't make noise about it, you scream over them until you feel like you overachieved something.
Okay, so first
I don't like Trump.
Okay, so hold on.
I voted for him twice.
Hold
I
on.
don't like him. I didn't like him then.
Let him finish. Let him finish.
I didn't like him then. I don't know if I like him now.
Okay.
But can we say the country's running well right now, or can you say we need a change?
Well, that's a very general question. Okay.
So
is the country running well? No. Well, Brian, let me chime in. Okay, so your question is the country running well? So are you insinuating that Joe Biden is a terrible president? So that's why you think we should support Donald Trump?
I've got a lot of questions about some of the policies running through the government right now, and I'm so sick of the fighting. You know what would work? A third party. A third party would balance all this power.
Absolutely not. A third party will never happen. Ralph Nader tried it. It's been tried in the past. It would never happen. And by the way, in regards to
we had it at one time.
Okay, it would never happen in 2024, and it's a pipe dream, and it would not happen.
That's a little better way to say it.
Okay,
well, we did have it.
Thank you for your approval on that. And by the way, when I raise my voice to people,
there's a reason for it.
Okay, sir, it's called passion, and I'm sorry. And I'm sorry if you don't like passion. I am a very passionate person. And unlike some people, like the Sean Hannitys of the world, that will lie to your face on a television program and then say the opposite behind closed doors, nothing I have ever said in my 20-year radio career on the air, I don't actually believe. So I'm sorry if you don't like passion. I'm a very passionate person. And I'm also not a registered Democrat. So you're wrong about that as well.
I heard you say you're an independent. I heard that.
Well, that's
okay. I'm an independent.
Okay, well, thank you for your approval.
The
reality
is, if we want to talk politics, everybody's got to calm down and realize one thing. Every single one of those politicians in office don't care about you.
Okay, so that's another very ridiculous generalized.
Again, you're making general statements that are just weird.
Okay,
they're weird
so
general statements, though. Yeah.
Sir, to say that every single...
That's a good statement when you're thinking about how petty this shit is.
Okay. So first of all, please don't swear on the air. I find it interesting that you don't like it when I raise my voice, but you think it's totally okay to swear on the radio.
I just got a loud voice, and I'll take your passion for $20, man.
Okay. Well, I that's not funny. Please don't quit your day job. That wasn't a funny joke. So for you to make a generalized...
I'm not here to entertain anybody.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, sir. I'm clearly I am, because you're the one that listens to me and you're the one that called in. But anyway,
I scrolled across you.
Oh, okay, I got it.
Real quick.
Well, I appreciate that, sir.
Shapiro, you're a joke.
Okay, thank you. Have a nice day, sir. So the guy who doesn't like it.
That escalated quickly.
Well, I knew it because
that was my Ron Burgundy. Jump in there.
So all the guy said in that phone call is that no politician cares about you. That was the substance of your phone call, and you don't like it when I raise my voice, but somehow I'm the dope. I'll let the listeners decide on who the real dope is in that conversation. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. I just came across. No, sir, you didn't just come across my show. You watch my show every day. I grow on you like a fungus, and you felt the need to use your little MAGA Trump fingers to call into the show. Thank you. Have a nice day. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Obi. Obi is next on Pushing the Limits. Hello, Obi.
Hey, how you doing, Brian?
Doing all right, my
Listen,
man.
Brian,
Yep.
At the beginning, I used to get very upset with Julie. But then, now I enjoy her clowning performance because what else can you do with Julie? A woman that doesn't know how a jury is assembled, But let me tell you something. I read a comment in YouTube because I watch you on YouTube.
Yes, sir.
That somebody was saying that all the money that Obama gave to the car industry. I want to make something clear for everybody that is listening. Every loan that Obama gave to the car industry was repaid with interest. Now let's get that out of the way. Mm-hmm. The other thing I want to tell you is, I hope that every woman was listening when Donald Trump took complete credit for the turn of the Roe versus Wade. Mm-hmm. I hope that. And another thing, Hunter Biden is running for nothing. So all the time they want to bring this Hunter Biden thing, they just want to hurt the president. We have a president that has accomplished a lot of things that Donald Trump didn't accomplish 1/5 of whatever Mr. Biden has accomplished.
Yeah.
I am for Mr. Biden. Now, everybody's talking about his mental, cognitive, whatever. Joe Biden has been in multiple meetings with leaders of the war. I want to know which one said this man
Obi,
doesn't have a good mind.
Obi, I'll tell you this. People like Julie aren't the ones that Donald Trump is inviting to Mar-a-Lago. Okay? These are white elitists that are hanging out at Mar-a-Lago. He hates people like you and me. He hates your everyday, regular American. He hates our brave men and women in uniform. He just wants elitist orange turds like him to be hanging out at Mar-a-Lago. Obi, it's good to hear from you, and I appreciate the phone call.
No, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something else. There is something that Julie is very ungrateful about, that she's in this country because every Democratic government gave the opportunity for the Cuban American to come here. Mm-hmm. Even to this point, they should be grateful what Biden has been doing for the Cuban. That's all I have to say. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Obi.
And thank you, your partner there.
Yes, Chris Wen. Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would characterize you as my partner, but I appreciate that. Thank you. 702-2217.
On-air partner right now.
By the way, for the record, I just want to say this on the record. Somebody called in, and they made a claim that Marjorie Taylor Greene could be transgender. First of all, I want to be clear on this. I don't know if that's true, but if it was true, hypothetically, I would support her in her being transgender, and there would be almost nobody of the MAGA Republicans that would. I want to be clear on that. But it is also interesting that when some of these MAGA Republicans, like the Lauren Boeberts of the world, talk about their Christianity and their faith and being wholesome Christians, it's the same woman who performs a sex act on a man on a first date in a public theater with kids around. But I don't hear those wholesome good Christians talking about Lauren Boebert and the sins, but they'll talk about transgenders and drag queen readings like it's,
Well,
World War
Shap,
III.
that ship has sailed, man, because all the evangelical support that Donald Trump has had. You've seen all the video clips and all the comedy bits and everything that's gone on. When you talk to evangelicals who have this description, God has chosen Donald Trump to be our glorious president of the United States. He's the one who's been chosen.
Isn't it
It's
crazy,
just
Chris?
the idea of anything when it comes to evangelical or religious or Christian or support when it comes to Donald Trump is so beyond laughable. Myself, you and I are very similar when it comes to our when it comes to religion in our life. I'm not somebody that is an atheist. I am someone who believes in God. I grew up a Presbyterian, just like Donald Trump, by the way. I grew up a Presbyterian, going to Presbyterian church camp. Yeah. But I'm not someone who is someone who is strictly living my life in a way that would be described as evangelical, right? Or someone who's in that
Now, here's
vein.
a question, Chris. Let me ask you this. What do you think is more dangerous to children? Drag queen reading to kids or the clergy?
Oh, absolutely. It's the clergy.
Thank you.
Absolutely, positively.
Yeah.
You know why I say that? Because there's no evidence whatsoever.
Yeah.
There is zero evidence. Not point 0.00002% or 0.00010%. There is zero evidence that drag queen reading there's been any kind of sexual assault or any kind of crimes or anything that has taken place because of that. There's none of it. It's all nonsense.
There are some bigots
Nonsense.
out there.
It's garbage.
There are some Republicans out there and some bigots out there that actually think that if a man or a woman sadly wants to sexually assault a child, that they worry if they're going into a restroom, whether it says men's room or women's room. There are actually people in this country that believe that if somebody wants to do a horrible crime and sexually assault the child, that they won't go into a room if it says men's room or you can't make this stuff up. Let's get back
is there an epidemic of transgender people out there that are committing sexual crimes in America? I mean, give me a break.
Yeah.
This is all a sham. It's all a bunch of complete nonsense.
Let's go 702-221-7283. Let's go to Fernando, who's next up on Pushing the Limits. What's up, Fernando?
Hey, guys. Good show. Good topics. I always ask when we get into these political debates, who has the cleaner hands, Joe Biden or Donald Trump? It's easy.
Yeah.
Who has the cleaner hands, and who's in those debates and those questions asked, and Julie is what we call a mensa. That's a dummy.
Well, it is interesting you talk about clean hands because we have something called the AVN Awards coming up. It's the porn awards in Las Vegas. And I'd be willing to bet that a lot of the women that are going to be, some of them that are going to be walking the red carpet have had some experiences. Maybe they were short experiences, but experiences with Donald Trump. So I think that's the answer to your question.
Fernando made a point. He was making a point saying about clean hands. Look, to your point, Fernando, here's the deal. That's only really one aspect of this, though, right? When you're talking about making the choice for president of the United States between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, which most likely it's going to be, right? That's only one little thing. You don't want to say, oh, that's the end-all, be-all, just because one person happens to have cleaner hands than the other guy. But it is a fair point that you make. But it's not the end-all, be-all, right? It's just kind of it's one thing that we look at to make a determination between.
Well,
these two
hold on.
guys.
For the record, for lunch today, I did have KFC and I was licking my fingers and I did not wash my hands. So I just want to be very fair on that. Fernando, it's good to hear from you, my friend.
Bum.
You have a good Tuesday.
Guys.
All right,
Fernando.
Take care, buddy. 702-221-7283. I do have some Marjorie Taylor Greene audio I'm going to play after we take a break, but we're going to take a few more phone calls first. Let's go to Susan. Susan, thank you for calling in to Pushing the Limits. What's on your mind?
How are you, Susan?
Hi, I'm good. Nice to see you, Chris.
Good to see you.
You can't see me.
Good to talk to you, though. No question.
Yes. I just wanted to call up today and say that I think you guys are doing a great job. I like the playoff between Brian and Chris. I think that's really great.
We're just role playing. We're just role playing.
Sometimes I gotta chime in with the lefty Democrat side, right? I gotta do it. I have to.
Yeah. And I agree with you a lot.
Well, to be honest, a lot of people agree with both of us. That's the beautiful thing, right? I mean, we are. Hey, I'll say it.
Yeah.
We're in the majority in the country.
I will say this though, Susan.
We're in the majority.
I will say this though: the overwhelming majority of people disagree with Chris when it comes to any sports bet that he plans on making, and usually.
But that's one little thing. Nobody cares about that.
I just wanted to throw that out there. I just wanted to throw that out there. That's all, Susan. But apparently. A MAGA caller will call into this show and say, I raised my voice, and they're very upset at that. And then the end of the conversation, they'll call me a dope. It's so funny to destroy these people.
No, Susan, what they'll do is they'll get very upset at Brian because a caller that is a Trump supporter or a MAGA will call in and unload just absolute horse donkey
garbage
and absolute nonsense or lies. Yeah. And then you push back against it. And then they're like, oh my gosh, how can you do that to that nice lady? How can you do that, Brian?
You know the
very offensive.
You know the hypocrisy of these MAGAs, right? Oh my God, did you call somebody a right-wing buffoon? Yeah, but wait a second. Didn't the guy that you support just make a racist statement about Elizabeth Warren? Oh, well, he didn't mean it. Wait a second. Didn't the guy that you support make this statement about Mexicans crossing the border as rapists? And I suppose some of the, oh yeah, but that's not what he meant.
Wait, didn't the guy that you support make comments regarding veterans and saying that our proud service members are suckers because they go into the military? Is that I mean, it's just,
yeah. I mean, it's
that makes me really angry because my nephew was in the military and he went in and did his bit and was in for 10 years.
Yeah.
So
it's in my
I got a lot of
personal
respect for servicemen.
In my opinion, when Donald Trump said that he didn't respect John McCain because he was captured, that should have been the end and should have disqualified him from ever holding office. The fact that there are veterans in this country, regardless of what they think about Joe Biden, to support a man who would make a statement like that, who, by the way, dodged the military multiple times, to me, I will never understand it. I just don't get it. And there are people in this country that have so much hatred for Democrats and so much hatred for Joe Biden that they're willing to support a man who literally is a liable rapist who doesn't support our brave men and women in uniform if they're POWs. It makes absolutely no sense, and it's despicable.
And hate is such a strong word, I mean, to hate something that vehemently, it has to hurt.
Well, you know what? I'm going to say this on the air right now. I don't use the word hate very often, but I will say this. I hate everything about Donald Trump. I hate the person that he is, the phony that he is, the way he's treated women his whole life, the way he's treated people around him, the way he's conned people his whole life. He is a despicable human being. His family is trash. I have no respect for Melania Trump. Barron didn't do anything wrong. I have no respect for Melania, who, what did she do when she was the first lady? I could go back to Laura Bush, who's a woman of class, a woman certainly of class. I could go to Michelle Obama and the stuff she did when it came to nutrition. What the hell did Melania Trump do besides wear a stupid jacket that says, I don't care, do you? What did she do besides building tennis courts and ripping up the White House and putting in new rugs? She did nothing, and I'm sick of people. And it says all you need to know about that relationship. When Melania Trump's mother passed away, they had the funeral the other day, and Donald Trump is prancing behind Melania Trump, and she walks into this limo by herself, and then Donald Trump, it appears as though he wants to get into a limo with his wife, and I put that in quotations, and then she says, take a hike, and he goes into another limo during a funeral. What does that say about their relationship? Melania Trump hates Donald Trump probably even more than I do because Donald Trump didn't have to get on top of me, thank goodness. But with that being said, the truth of the matter is that nobody loves Donald Trump. Name me one person. You think Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. love their father and just, gosh, Dad, we love you so much. Of course not. I don't think anybody truly has, even including Donald Trump's own dad, the Klan himself, I don't think anybody in Donald Trump's family actually truly could look you in the eye and be honest, if anybody in the Trump family could, and say, boy, I really love that guy. My uncle, Donald Trump, my father, Donald Trump. I really love him so much. He's such a great father. There's nobody. Yeah. You think Donald Trump's ex-wives ever really, truly loved him? No, I think they loved his money. I don't think they loved his orange tan. They loved his money. You think let me tell you what a loving relationship looks like. Do you see George, all due respect, I don't always agree with George W. Bush. Him and Laura Bush, that's a loving couple. They love one another. Michelle Obama and Barack Obama, that is a loving couple. Joe Biden and Jill Biden, they love one another. You can see it in their eyes when they hold hands. Donald Trump and Melania Trump? Are you kidding me? I mean,
she won't even hold hands with him.
It's just they have a money agreement. It's just a matter of time before she divorces him and says goodbye, see you later. And then Donald Trump will find.
Is Barron out of high school yet? He's still in high school, right?
The guy's like 9 feet tall.
I know. He's probably going to be an NBA player, that kid.
He's
tall. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not trying to get into their business as far as their family business, but I
am.
When Barron graduates from high school, I think there could be some changes when it comes to the whole Melania Donald dynamic. I could be wrong on that. Yeah. We'll see.
By the way, somebody on Occupy Democrats, I'm assuming a MAGA supporter, said half the country wants Trump. Let me explain to this dope. Half the country does not want Trump.
They do not.
Let me go back to the 2020 elections. 18% of the country, voted for Donald Trump. Okay, let me repeat that. 18% of the
80
country.
million votes, right? Was
Yes.
it 80 million
Yes. Yeah. That's
votes
not
from registered voters in the United States?
That's not half the country. Half the country does not want Trump to win. It's not even half the country that are Republicans. And definitely not every Republican wants to see Donald Trump in office again. So you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. Again, I go back to what I said earlier. Trump supporters like to call them the silent majority. No, they're not. They're the loud minority. That's all they are, and that's all they ever will be, because the overwhelming majority of people in America are not racist. They're not bigots. They're not anti-trans. They're not anti-LGBT community. They are for equality. And if you wanted to see real people that do not want to see a government being overthrown, then the opposite of that was January 6th. And I know people want to talk Black Lives Matter protest, and people on the right, all they want to talk about is, you know, all the violence and everything bad that took place. And there was some bad stuff that took place. But tens of millions of people were not violent. Tens of millions of people across the country, like myself and Chris, we went to Black Lives Matter protests in Las Vegas, if you remember, Chris. And many people went to these protests because they didn't want to try to overturn the outcome of a free and fair election. Even the ones that were not violent on January 6th are idiots because they think, you know, Donald Trump won. Most of the people at Black Lives Matter protests, they were there for equality. They wanted people to be treated as equals. And you know what? That's a good thing. All the people that were there listening to the president speak on January 6th, I'm confident 99% of them think that Donald Trump won the 2020 election. So at a minimum, they're all dopes. At a minimum.
I'll put it a different way, right, Susan? And Brian and Brian has talked about this, and I'll reiterate it, okay? One was an actual noble cause, right? That was something that was absolutely something that you should be for. The other was a lie, was nonsense, was absolute absurdity, and it should not have taken place.
Yeah.
You know, that's the difference between the two.
Thank you, Susan. Appreciate
Thanks,
you for
Susan.
calling in. Appreciate you. Thank you. Well,
No problem.
There you go, C-Win. You have a fan. You have a fan.
Absolutely.
Yes, you do.
I
All
love
right.
it.
All right. So here's what we're going to do, Chris. I'm losing my voice.
Are we going to take a break, maybe?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Here's what we're going to do, Chris. Haven't even talked about your Detroit Lions, but I do want to do this. We have some Marjorie Taylor Greene audio that I would like to play for you when we
can't
come back.
wait.
Yes. Marjorie Taylor Greene audio. And then we haven't even gotten into this. Governor Greg Abbott, as I like to call him, Governor Abhole in Texas, it appears as though he's defying a Supreme Court decision when it comes to barbed wire and migrants, or, you know, those that are crossing the border illegally. We'll get to that as well. Number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-7283. I remind all of you watching on the Occupy Democrats Network, click on that subscribe button. It's only $5 a month. You support this show. You support what we do. Appreciate all of you. And we'll take a quick break. Again, if you want to call in, 702-221-7283. Take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. It's Pushing the Limits right here on KSH. All right, everybody, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Tuesday. Programming note for you. We have the Mooch, Anthony Scaramucci. He's going to be joining us on Thursday. And what will happen in the New Hampshire primaries? Well, we'll be reporting on all that tomorrow for you. Quick note as well, if you're on the Occupy Democrats Network, click on that subscribe button. You're supporting what I do here, what we do here on PTL. It's only $5 a month, and you're going to get extra content from yours truly. Also, if you're wondering what my own socials are, on YouTube, at PTL Radio Show. I'm also on X, formerly known as Twitter, at PTL Radio Show. I'm on TikTok. It's where I'm probably most interactive with the listeners, other than if you're calling into the show, and hopefully, God forbid, if you don't answer my questions, if I don't call you a name. I don't want to be rude. I would hate to do that, and I would hate to offend some of the snowflakes that are watching.
Check the Pushing the Limits and the Occupy Democrats text line and message line. A big favorite line from Brian Shapiro is, "Get off my show." Tossed out there.
Yes,
our friend Jim Gemma chimed in with that.
That is,
Yes.
yeah. That is one of my lines. All right, so Siwan, as I know everybody on Occupy Democrats, and Chris, I know you're a huge Marjorie Taylor Greene fan.
I thought credibility up the wazoo, Brian Shapiro.
Yeah,
she is one of the more influential politicians in Washington, D.C., without question.
Yeah, listen, Marjorie Taylor Greene, extremely educated woman, extremely intelligent.
Going to be going down in the annals of history as just being so important when it comes to American politics.
Very accomplished. Anyway, so Marjorie Taylor Greene in New Hampshire, wearing the Donald Trump knee pads. And you cannot make this stuff up, because she's doing an interview on television, I believe. And I want you to listen to Marjorie Taylor Greene's words. In no other world where somebody has an IQ over 10, this would be a negative. But listen to what Marjorie Taylor Greene claims is a negative in the Biden administration. Folks, you can't make this stuff up. Have a listen to this.
One more thing that we have to recognize and address is under President Biden, the Department of Justice prosecuted criminals, prosecuted child predators, prosecuted terrorism.
Oh, my God, that's terrible. Wait, Chris, did you hear that? Under the Biden administration, the DOJ he prosecuted criminals. He prosecuted pedophiles. So, Marjorie, what are you saying? That you wish that pedophiles weren't prosecuted? Can you possibly be this more ignorant? Can you make this up?
And behind this, Brian, is this whole idea that Democrats are only going to, prosecute Republicans, right? Or friends of Republicans. Or, and there's this false equivalency. Again, this false equivalency that kills me, right? That Democrats were looking to do that with Republicans, right? That when, that Republicans, when they're in office, want to prosecute Democrats only. It's all garbage. It's all nonsense. It's not true, okay? That's not how the Justice Department works. That's not how our justice system in America works, okay? Yeah. It's not just because you're a Republican, right? Or, hey, for example, you're Donald Trump, so we're going to go after you, right? Or because you're Joe Biden, so we should go after you. That's not how the legal system operates. It's about evidence. It's about facts.
Of course.
It's about, do you commit a crime or not? Do we have sufficient evidence to prove that you committed said crime? And then we go from there. It
really is.
It's a fundamental misunderstanding.
They don't even understand
of how it works.
Marjorie Taylor Greene is so stupid. She doesn't even understand what she's saying is a positive. The fact that Joe Biden and his DOJ, as she would like to say, prosecutes criminals and pedophiles, I think most Americans would agree that that's a good thing. Oh, but it doesn't end there, because yesterday, Marjorie, if you remember the hearings where Hunter Biden showed up in the House chambers for a little bit and then he left, and Hunter Biden has said time and time again, and his attorneys have said, he's willing to testify under oath in a public hearing. James Comer and the MAGA morons don't want that to happen because it would make them look bad, not Hunter Biden. So anyway, Hunter's in the House chambers. He's watching the charades. And then the second that they give Marjorie Taylor Greene the microphone to speak for 5 minutes, Hunter Biden gets up and leaves. I don't blame him. It was kind of fun.
It was stuntish. There's no question about that. Him going to that hearing that way.
Yeah, but here's
what.
But
let me comment though, because you and Carmine Sabia brought this up yesterday, and you talked about this, and you had some banter back and forth regarding, Hunter Biden and testifying behind closed doors or in front of in public, in front of a hearing. Here's the distinction, right? What in reality, what is problematic for the Republicans is that if it's in a public hearing, the Republicans won't be able to do what they would do if it was a private hearing. In that Republicans would lie about it. They would flat out come out to the media in the next day or two, and they would lie about what was said in the hearings beforehand, right? So if it's a public hearing, this is the difference. If it's in public, if the proceedings were live on television, for example, right, the Republicans would not have that option. They wouldn't be able to kind of set the narrative, right? They wouldn't be able to reframe what was being said. So that is why Republicans don't want him to testify in public.
Well, yeah, no doubt.
As opposed to
But
being
anyway,
behind closed doors.
I agree with you. But regardless of that, she's now talking about Hunter Biden, and she's claiming that Hunter, quote, ran away from her. Listen to this.
But so they came in and they sat down and they sat through Nancy Mace going after him. They sat there a little while longer, and then it was when Chairman Comer recognized me to speak. They literally jumped up and ran out the door. I think Hunter Biden was terrified of what I had to say to him.
That's not true, right, Brian?
By the way,
that's not true.
By the way, for the record, most men, she's probably used to most men running away from her. I would as well, but I don't blame Hunter Biden for doing that. That's not true, by the way. Nobody's running away. By the way, Hunter Biden, again, would sit there for 5 minutes and allow Marjorie Taylor Greene to ask him her stupid questions under oath in public. It's James Comer and you right-wing turds that continue to dodge that. You don't want to see that happen. And while all this stuff is going on, we do have a crisis at the border. And the Biden administration does not want barbed wire at the border. Why? Because people have died. Not necessarily drug dealers or lifelong criminals. Families,
migrants,
children.
Yeah.
Migrants, right, exactly. They've died. Now, we don't want a bunch of people crossing the border illegally. We also don't want a bunch of people dying. So Joe Biden wants them to get rid of the barbed wire. So it went to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court is now allowing U.S. Border Patrol agents to remove this razor wire deployed by Texas GOP Governor Greg Abbott. This is the same idiot who treats these people as political pawns to own the libs. Same type of language that so many on the far right use if you're brown in this country,
Right.
legal or not. So this was Brett Baer live on Fox News sharing this story as it just broke. Have a listen to this.
We had breaking news at the top of the show with the Supreme Court ruling 5-4 for a temporary restraining order on Texas along the border. Just moments ago, the Texas Attorney General, this is about the wire, the barbed wire that they put up, Texas put up. The Supreme Court's temporary order allows Biden to continue his illegal effort to aid foreign invasion of America. This is from the AG, Ken Paxton. The destruction of Texas's border barriers will not help enforce the law or keep American citizens safe. This fight is not over. I look forward to defending our state's sovereignty. That from the Texas Attorney.
Let me first say this. Ken Paxton is another right-wing MAGA turd. First of all, this isn't an illegal effort. The illegal effort Ken Paxton's a little bit confused. The illegal effort is what's going on right now. In fact, there's video evidence of Border Patrol agents putting up barbed wire at the commands of the governor. That is what is an illegal effort. There's nothing illegal. You see, Joe Biden did this the legal way, and he allowed the Supreme Court. Isn't it interesting that when the Supreme Court makes a decision, like if it's overturning Roe versus Wade, so many Republicans are celebrating and jumping on trampolines, taking away a woman's health care. But then when the Supreme Court makes a decision like this, that I believe is the right decision, but that's regardless, but many MAGA Republicans don't like it, then they decide to go against the Supreme Court and want to overturn a ruling like a Governor Abbott. I also find that the law and order party, right? But when the Supreme Court decides on something that most MAGA Republicans don't agree with, they want to defy the order or the decision.
Well, I understand your point too, Brian, but I'll wrap this up in a bow with respect to this exact situation here regarding the border, right? And this barbed wire situation. This is another textbook case, another situation where Democrats handle the border in a manner that is from a place of compassion and empathy, right? and trying to but still trying to keep America safe.
Yep.
And Republicans approaching it in a callous, cold-hearted, almost like we don't care type of approach. That's what it is. So that's kind of the mere dynamic that you have here between the two parties as far as their approach to the situation.
Right.
But there's no question that, and also there's an element of this too, that when it comes to Abbott and his attorney general, where they just love to be at odds with the Biden administration, right? They love to be at odds with any entity in Washington D.C. that might be on the left or that might be Democratic. They just love thumbing their nose at these people.
Yeah, no, there's no question about it. And I mean, I am a little surprised, by the way, that the vote on the Supreme Court, which is a conservative Supreme Court, let's be honest, 5-4, and Barrett actually ruled in favor of the Joe Biden administration, which really surprised me. I didn't expect that to happen here.
Because they're a conservative Supreme Court? That's why you didn't expect it? Well,
yeah.
Look here. Let's be very clear, though, Brian, okay? Yes, the Supreme Court, at times, well, obviously Roe versus Wade, right, and some other situations, they're going to the word expose maybe is the word I'll use, their conservatism, right, their bias, for lack of a better term, as well, too. But there are also situations, Brian, where the Supreme Court as a whole is going to make sound decisions from a legal perspective. And this is one of those situations
okay, I hear
where
you,
you understand what I'm saying.
I do.
So
but I don't
it's
trust.
not all biased. They're not going to
Okay,
be all biased when it comes to these situations.
I didn't say that, but I don't trust somebody like Clarence Thomas, whose own wife was a part of the January 6th insurrection. As far as I'm concerned, I don't trust Brett Kavanaugh, who loves his beer. Listen, Neil Gorsuch is somebody who at times I agree with. It's not about whether you agree or disagree. Is it somebody you can trust? Justice Clarence Thomas is an untrustworthy traitor, as far as I'm concerned. Whether it be accepting certain gifts because of who he is or who his wife is, who is absolutely despicable. There are a few on the Supreme Court that I do not have any respect for. And the overturning of Roe versus Wade, to me, is just absurd.
And it leads to the larger conversation that we've been having regarding the Supreme Court, right? Whether to expand the Supreme Court to make it more look representative of the United States of America. Right now, the Supreme Court does not represent the majority of Americans.
No,
it just doesn't. It's a conservative Supreme Court. The majority of Americans, want Roe versus Wade to be implemented, right?
Yeah.
There is a pathway once 2024 is gone and passed and the election's over, right? If Democrats have their way and are successful and are able to get back the Senate, keep the Senate, get back the House, and keep the presidency, there is a pathway in which they're going to try to get Roe versus Wade back. Okay, so I mean, there has been discussions at length, Brian, when it comes to the Supreme Court as to look, its current makeup might be going bye-bye. All right, and all of you MAGA people out there and right-wingers that have loved what has transpired over the past 4 or 5 years with respect to the Supreme Court, you might be in for a rude awakening because Democrats, my fellow lefties, might be having a say, and there might be an expansion of the Supreme Court.
Here's something interesting, by the way, and I'm lucky to call him a friend. He's a personal friend of mine. In fact, he's going to be in Vegas next month. We're going to grab dinner. Anthony Scaramucci is going to be joining us on the show Thursday. So the Mooch has made some headlines. Because he said, quote, he is willing to do anything and everything to make sure that Donald Trump doesn't get back into office. Anthony Scaramucci said that. He's willing to campaign with Joe Biden. And this is a lifelong Republican. This is a guy who was in the White House, take it for it was only 11 days. But the Mooch is willing to do anything, quote, anything and everything.
Yeah, but Brian, there's a number of people like Anthony Scaramucci.
Joe Walsh.
Cohen?
Yep.
I mean, Michael Cohen is just like Anthony Scaramucci, essentially.
Yep.
And there's a number of people.
The Mooch isn't.
And
Mooch didn't
by the
go
way,
to jail.
by the way, Shap, you and Sabia yesterday, you brought up the point, a very valid point. How many people have jumped ship that were on board with him for the last 4 or 5 years? People that have gone to prison for him, okay? That have bailed on Trump. So, I mean, Anthony, look, no disrespect to Anthony, I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of people out there just like the Mooch when it comes to having the passion, is what I'll say, to have Donald Trump never be in power ever again.
Yeah, listen, and I'm going to be perfectly honest, and I think I speak for a lot of people in this country. Joe Biden's not my number one pick. There's a lot of other people in D.C., and there's a lot of other people that I would rather have at the helm running against Donald Trump. However, it's not even a thought for me. If it's Joe Biden versus Donald Trump, I'm going to support Joe Biden. My vote in 2000, not because I'm not saying that I think Joe Biden's a horrible guy, and I'm not saying that he hasn't done a decent. He has done a decent job as president. I think he's done fine, but he's not my first, second, or third pick. I voted for Biden in 2020 because it was an anti-Donald Trump vote. I made a big mistake in 2016, and I own it. I didn't vote for Hillary or Donald Trump because I don't believe in voting for the lesser of two evils. I don't believe Joe Biden is evil. I think he's a decent man. I certainly respect his wife, who's a PhD. Beau Biden, who served this country honorably. It's a tragedy what happened to him and what happened to Biden's family. I think it's one of Joe Biden's best attributes is when he talks about loss. It resonates with him. I think Joe Biden's a decent guy. I think he's too old. But I still vote for Joe Biden over Donald Trump any day of the week. I mean, Donald Trump is a guy just in the last month. He said he need voter ID to buy bread. He thinks he defeated Barack Obama.
Well, when's the last time Donald Trump's been in a grocery store? But seriously, Brian,
never,
Chap,
probably
when's the last time he was
He
in a
reminds me
grocery
of Dr.
store?
Oz when he ran against Fetterman.
And to the statement you just made regarding Democrats, right, and supporting Joe Biden. Let me break some news for you, okay, Brian Shapiro? I'm going to say it right now on your show, PTL Nation out there, everybody, okay? I'm Chris Wynn. I'm a Democrat, all right? No, Joe Biden is not the ideal choice, okay, to be president in 2024 or obviously beyond. He's not going to be beyond. All right? But we do need to have an influx of young people in our party. We need to have Generation X take the reins, okay, and leadership in the Democratic Party. We need to have the Shapiros out of Pennsylvania, right? You need to have the Gretchen Whitners out of Michigan. You need to have the Bookers out of New Jersey, right? The Hakeem Jeffries of the world, right? Yes, I'll say it. Here it comes. Gavin Newsom in California, right? Someone who is right now in line to be injected into the body politic when it comes to 2028 as far as Democratic candidates. Gavin Newsom is going to probably be the front runner, and he's going to be the person that my party is going to put forth, and he's going to put himself forth when it comes to the Democratic Party and leadership. There are a number of candidates, who are absolutely viable when it comes to Democrats in America moving forward. But with respect to 2024, in the next 10, 11 months, all right, and if it's going to end up being Donald Trump against Joe Biden, make no mistake about it. Don't have any questions out there, folks. Brian Shapiro, don't even question it, all right? Yeah. Democrats and independents that lean Democrat are not going to support Donald Trump over Joe Biden. They're going to support Joe Biden over Donald Trump. Period. Full stop. End of story.
I am going to say this. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, and it's a plea to Michelle Obama. Michelle, I know you don't want to be back in the White House. I know you don't want to be president. I know it wouldn't probably be very convenient for you or your family. And nobody's forcing you. I'm just begging you. Please run for president, because if you run for president of the United States, or even if you want to, Joe Biden will step aside. And Michelle, it'll be, to use one of Donald Trump's words, a landslide victory for you. There is not one Republican that would even come close to beating you. You would destroy Donald Trump on a debate stage because you're a very intelligent, eloquent, educated woman. Please, 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 I am begging you, please run for office.
Okay, Shap, you're making some of my fellow Democrats on the Occupy Democrats, you're making some people very irked a little bit, because in sentiment, right, we understand what you're saying, all right? And in theory, in a perfect world, okay? Yes! We'd love to have Michelle Obama as someone who is the face of the Democratic Party moving forward. But what you're talking about is not something that's based in reality. What you're talking about is not something that's going to happen unless something catastrophic happens where Joe Biden passes away again, like I said about Donald Trump earlier, right? If Joe Biden passes away, then that's going to recalibrate everything. But what you're talking about right now is a pie in the sky concept, and so Democrats are like, oh, whoa, we love Michelle Obama. We love Michelle Obama, Brian. Okay, but it's a pie in the sky concept to make kind of like a declaration. Hey, you should come out because Joe.
Well, I think it would
because Joe is past his time.
I think it would relieve any stress or worries that anti-Trumpers like myself have. There is always a chance. People thought, and the polls thought, that Donald Trump had no chance to defeat Hillary Clinton. They were all wrong, and I was one of them. And it's the only presidential. It's the only presidential election that I actually predicted wrong, and I don't want to go through that again. So.
Well, were you and I predicting a bunch of presidential elections before? I wasn't.
I was. I mean, I always, since the Al Gore, George W. Bush election when I was 18 years old, sure. It's the only one I've gotten wrong. However, with that being said, my prediction is still Joe Biden will defeat Donald Trump.
As is mine.
I think it'll be a lot closer than people think, but I do think Joe Biden will defeat Donald Trump. With that being said, if Michelle Obama ran, Trump would get his ass handed to him. That's the only reason why I say that. And I know it's a long shot, and I know Michelle does not want to be back in the White House. People that are close to the Obamas, people that I do talk to on a regular basis say, no, she doesn't want to be anywhere near the White House. And I get that, and I totally understand it. Barack Obama didn't have any major, I guess you could say, distractions when he was president of the United States. We need a president that's not going to have that. And I'm not saying Joe Biden deserves that
And
either.
Joe Biden hasn't had a lot of distractions. The Hunter Biden stuff's ridiculous. I mean, obviously we're at the back end of the show here, so we can't get into it, but Joe Biden's been pretty mild-mannered. There's been no real controversies at all.
No, I'm not saying maybe some fabricated controversies by
made
the right.
Up stuff, but it's nothing with substance. Yeah.
But, obviously Hunter Biden hasn't helped the situation any. I know he's a private citizen, but Michelle Obama would be the perfect president. I would be jumping for joy. I don't go to any presidential rallies or any political rallies. I've never been one to do that, but I would for Michelle Obama. And I did meet her before. In fact, I was in her motorcade when I was a reporter for CBS, and she could not have been nicer. She's a lovely lady. I have so much respect for her, so intelligent, and both the Obamas, the entire Obama family, they have great children who are now, going to college, adults, right? But anyway, Chris, thanks for joining us. The liberals seem to love you, so
Thanks for having me.
Yes.
And congrats to my
fun.
Detroit Lions. I was
Yes.
wearing my Honolulu blue and silver, well, more like a pastel Honolulu blue. My Detroit Lions, 2 playoff wins this year. Heading to the NFC
You
Championship
deserve
game.
it. And
in
Chris
the
dressed
Bay.
up, and Chris dressed up for me today. I appreciate that. Anyway, thanks for coming in, Chris. Anthony Scaramucci coming up on Thursday. We're supposed to have George Santos on Friday. We'll see if that actually does happen. We're supposed to. We'll be back at it tomorrow, same time, same place. We have a very influential and famous author who happens to be a lefty who's going to be coming in studio tomorrow. So stay tuned for that, and we'll give you all the coverage of what's going on in New Hampshire throughout the day today. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Click on that Occupy Democrats button, $5 a month. Follow me on my socials at PTL Radio Show, YouTube and X. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great day.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn?